I kind of took that attitude with me when I came into the NBA, and that did not serve me very well. I did not want to be part of showing the world a false image of America, and it was a very easy choice to make.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar hated 6 NBA players with a fury that burns even today at 78 years old. This isn't about missed shots or tough fouls. This is about betrayal, racism, and sins he believes are unforgivable. And when Kareem says he will never forgive, he means it with the weight of theology itself. At 78, Kareem stands like what he calls himself, a genuine sequoia. He's always been bigger than everybody else, observing history from a vantage point most will never reach. But while the world wants to remember him for his skyhook and championship rings, beneath that celebrated surface lies something darker, a complex structure of resentment, principle, and memory that refuses to fade with age. When Kareem converted to Islam in 1968, he absorbed a theological framework that would govern his entire existence. In Islamic doctrine, God forgives all sins with one exception. He will never forgive associating partners with him, placing false idols on the same level as the Almighty. This ultimate transgression, called shirk, became Kareem's secular compass. For him, the struggle for black dignity wasn't just important, it was sacred, and those who betrayed it committed an unforgivable sin. His rivalries weren't just about basketball. They were about judgment, about who stood with the crucial campfire of black hope and who tried to extinguish it. 6 players occupy space in Kareem's gallery of memory. Some earned his eternal contempt, others gained his respect. But understanding why requires diving deep into the racial politics of the hardwood, where every elbow, every political stance, and every public comment carried weight that transcended the game itself. The rivalry that cuts deepest, the one Kareem has never forgiven and never will, is with Wilt Chamberlain. This wasn't just 2 giants competing for basketball supremacy. This was a father figure becoming a traitor, a mentor transforming into an enemy so despised that even death couldn't soften Kareem's judgment. When young Lou Alcindor first met Wilt, the older center took him under his wing. Wilt shared his clothes, his social circles, and his wisdom about navigating the loneliness at the summit. But as Lou became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, as he embraced black power and the fight for civil rights, a canyon opened between them that would never close. The late 60s demanded a choice, and Kareem made his. He boycotted the 1968 Olympics to protest the treatment of black Americans, inviting death threats and national hatred. He stood with Muhammad Ali when Ali refused to fight in Vietnam. He became what his generation called a race man, someone who put the struggle for black dignity above personal comfort. Wilt Chamberlain made a different choice. He became a black Republican who campaigned for Richard Nixon. For Kareem, this wasn't a private political preference, it was public betrayal. Nixon represented the establishment crushing the Black Power movement, and Wilt used his massive platform to support that crushing. This was Wilt's first strike, his political apostasy. But politics alone didn't earn Wilt a spot in Kareem's permanent gallery of unforgiveness. The unforgivable breach came in 1991 when Wilt published his autobiography, A View from Above. In those pages, Wilt made generalized racial statements disparaging black women. He suggested a preference for white women and implied that black women were sexually or socially inferior. For Kareem, who had immersed himself in black history, who understood that black women were the spine of the community's survival, this was heresy. This was a validation of the white slave master's gaze, performed by the most physically dominant black man of the era. Wilt was selling out his own mothers and sisters for the applause of white audiences. This was the unforgivable sin. This was secular shirk. If you think Kareem's judgment seems harsh, consider subscribing and dropping a comment about whether athletes have a responsibility to their community, because this story gets even more intense, and understanding these conflicts helps us see how race and sports have always been inseparable in America. Kareem's rage finally exploded in 1990 when he published his own book. In a chapter titled An Open Letter to Wilt Chamberlain, decades of suppressed fury poured onto the page. Kareem wrote that the 2 championship teams Wilt played on never repeated, never showed the consistency of Kareem's Lakers. Then came the assassination. You will be remembered as a whining crybaby and a quitter, stats and all. This wasn't trash talk. This was character execution. By calling Wilt a quitter, Kareem attacked the core of Wilt's masculinity and professional identity. He even summoned Muhammad Ali's ghost to deliver another blow, quoting Ali's brutal assessment that Wilt couldn't talk, was ugly, and couldn't move. By invoking Ali, the ultimate symbol of righteous black defiance, Kareem positioned himself on the side of history and Wilt on the side of irrelevance. Even after Wilt died in 1999, Kareem never truly softened. While he acknowledged Wilt's greatness as a player in public statements, the underlying moral judgment remained carved in stone. Wilt represented a tragic figure to Kareem, a giant who possessed all the physical tools to be a king, but chose instead to be a court jester for the white establishment. In the theology of the civil rights era, there is no penance for those who aid the oppressor while standing on the shoulders of the oppressed. Kareem will never forgive Wilt Chamberlain because Wilt failed the moral test of his generation. That verdict is final. But Wilt wasn't the only player who earned Kareem's permanent contempt. Kent Benson represented a different kind of threat, the external physical danger of the Great White Hope sent to brutalize the black giant into submission. The incident with Benson in 1977 is often reduced to just a punch, but the reality reveals a collision of racial archetypes and a moment of existential survival. Kent Benson came from Indiana University, playing under Bobby Knight's authoritarian, militaristic system. As the #1 overall draft pick, he represented the Midwestern white establishment, coming to restore order to a league dominated by the aloof, Muslim, Afrocentric Abdul-Jabbar. The term Great White Hope has loaded historical meaning dating back to the Jack Johnson era, describing a white athlete whose purpose is reclaiming dominance from a black champion. On opening night of the 1977 season, barely 2 minutes into the game, Benson threw a vicious elbow into Kareem's solar plexus. The wind knocked out of him. Kareem doubled over, but something psychological happened in that moment. The NBA arena dissolved. Benson wasn't a rookie anymore. He was an assailant. Kareem's mind transported back to the streets of New York. "This was life and death for me," he recalled later. "I expected him to keep attacking me. This was the playground. This was survival." As soon as he could breathe, Kareem fired on him, delivering a roundhouse right to Benson's eye. The punch shattered Benson's jaw and broke Kareem's own hand. The aftermath was significant. Kareem was fined a record sum and missed roughly 20 games. Benson's career was permanently altered. But here's where their perspectives diverged in a revealing way. Benson speaks of forgiveness. "He hit me so hard he broke his hand," Benson said in an interview. "That gave me an opportunity to learn about forgiveness. I had forgiven him." Benson viewed it through a Christian lens of sin and absolution. Kareem viewed it through a lens of survival and control. He doesn't ask for forgiveness. Instead, he reflects on the terrifying realization of his own lethality. "I could have killed him," Kareem admitted. "That's when I realized I better control my temper at all times." For Kareem, the lesson wasn't that defending himself was wrong. The lesson was that his retaliation had to be measured because the consequences of his rage could be fatal. He viewed Benson as another white hope fresh out of college looking to make a name for himself. In Kareem's eyes, Benson was the aggressor who initiated a cycle of violence. The unforgiveness here is systemic. Kareem never forgave the league culture that allowed white players to batter him without consequence, forcing him to resort to street justice to protect his body. By the 80s, Kareem's battles evolved into great team rivalries. Against the Detroit Pistons and Boston Celtics, he encountered two distinct archetypes: Bill Laimbeer, the unforgiven thug, and Robert Parrish, the respected adversary. Laimbeer occupies a special place in Kareem's gallery of villains. He was the son of a corporate executive born into wealth, a fact that irked Kareem and many black players who saw basketball as a lifeline, not a hobby. Laimbeer's style earned the nickname Combat Basketball, even spawning a video game. His approach was antithetical to Kareem's philosophy of the beautiful game. The defining moment came in Game 6 of the 1988 NBA Finals. With the Lakers trailing and the championship on the line, Kareem launched a skyhook. A whistle blew. Laimbeer was called for a foul, a call that Pistons fans insist to this day was phantom, that the referees gifted the Lakers a championship. Kareem's stance is immovable. "Check the tape, he made contact with my body." For Kareem, Laimbeer's complaints were the whining of a bully who finally got caught. Laimbeer's entire career was built on bending the rules and endangering opponents. Unlike physical play born of size, Laimbeer's play was born of malice. He undercut players, threw elbows, instigated fights, all while protected by his status and the Bad Boys brand. Kareem has shown no interest in forgiving Laimbeer because Laimbeer represented the degradation of basketball into violence, a degradation that disproportionately harmed the bodies of the black artists who made the game beautiful. Laimbeer was privileged, protected, and violent. That combination earned him permanent contempt. But standing in stark contrast is Robert Parrish, the center of the Boston Celtics. Parrish recently made headlines with a profane dismissal of the entire Lakers organization, with 3 specific exceptions: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Cooper, and James Worthy. Why did Kareem earn exemption from Parrish's hatred? The answer reveals everything. Parrish explicitly stated, "I respect Kareem because of what Kareem did off the court. For justice, for social justice for all." This dynamic exposes a profound truth. Parrish, a black man from the segregated South, recognized that Kareem was fighting a war that transcended basketball. While they battled fiercely on the court, Parrish being one of the few centers with the length and discipline to challenge the skyhook, there was a shared understanding of the burden of blackness in America. Kareem forgave the Celtics' rivalry in Parrish's case because Parrish was a brother in arms. Unlike Laimbeer, the privileged aggressor, or Wilt, the political sellout, Parrish was a silent warrior who respected the code. The mutual respect here serves as proof that Kareem can forgive the rival, provided the rival respects the cause. The rivalry with Larry Bird and the Boston Celtics defined the 80s NBA narrative. However, for Kareem, the conflict with Bird was less personal than sociological. It was a battle against the narratives that white America projected onto Bird. Larry Bird was reluctant to embrace the title of Great White Hope, but he couldn't escape it. The media and fans in Boston and across white America elevated Bird not just for his play, but for what he represented, a reassertion of white competence in a game that had been taken over by black athletes. The Celtics were framed as the team of intelligence, grit, and teamwork, while the Lakers were flash, athleticism, and talent. Kareem, arguably the most intelligent player in history, resented this racial coding deeply. Kareem offered a searing insight into the racial dynamics at play. He noted that his teammate Magic Johnson was beloved because Magic made white people feel comfortable with themselves. Magic's smile and effervescence allowed white fans to cheer for a black man without confronting the reality of black anger or black intellect. Kareem, by contrast, offered no such comfort. He was the angry black man, the intellectual who read history books in the locker room and refused to smile for cameras. Despite this, Kareem maintained professional respect for Bird. He recognized Bird as a fellow introvert and supreme craftsman. Unlike the unforgiveness directed at Wilt or the contempt for Laimbeer, Kareem's attitude toward Bird was detached admiration. He forgave the man, but never forgave the symbolism the media constructed around him. He understood that the Great White Hope narrative was a weapon used to diminish black achievements, and he fought against that narrative until his final game. In the twilight of his life, looking back on the centers who followed, Kareem made a conspicuous choice in designating his successor. He repeatedly bypassed Shaquille O'Neal, the most dominant physical force since Wilt, in favor of Hakeem Olajuwon. This choice reveals everything about Kareem's values and his ultimate criteria for judgment. Hakeem shares two critical traits with Kareem: the Islamic faith and reliance on technical mastery over brute force. Both men are devout Muslims. In a post-9/11 world rife with Islamophobia, this bond carries weight. Kareem has defended Muslim athletes against political attacks, creating a circle of protection that includes Hakeem. By choosing Hakeem over Shaq, Kareem is once again litigating his case against Wilt Chamberlain. Shaq and Wilt represented the overpowering style, dunking through people relying on mass. Hakeem and Kareem represented the artistic style, footwork, the dream shake, the skyhook. For Kareem, Hakeem Olajuwon is proof that his way was the right way. Hakeem won championships without being a thug like Laimbeer and without being a political sellout like Wilt. He maintained his dignity, his faith, and his dominance. There is no unforgiveness here. Instead, there is profound embrace. Hakeem Olajuwon is the only rival Kareem views without caveat. He is the spiritual heir who validated the Sequoia's existence. These 6 players, these 6 judgments, reveal the architecture of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's memory. His unforgiveness isn't bitterness, it's historical fidelity. Kareem functions as a living archive of the African-American experience in the 20th century. His refusal to forgive is a mechanism of preservation. He remembers the sting of white hope elbows when referees looked away. He remembers the betrayal of a mentor who told the world that black women were less than. He remembers the great white hope cheers that tried to drown out his excellence. Kareem's judgment operates on a hierarchy loosely modeled on the Islamic concept of shirk. The mortal sin, unforgivable, is betraying the race. This is Wilt Chamberlain's sin. By politically aligning with Nixon and culturally denigrating black women, Wilt associated himself with the oppressor. For this, there is no absolution. The systemic sin, unforgotten, is perpetuating violence and privilege. This is the sin of Bill Laimbeer and Kent Benson. While Benson is forgiven in a survivalist sense, the system that created him is not. Laimbeer remains condemned. The venial sin, forgivable, is being a symbol of the opposition. This applies to Larry Bird. Kareem separates the man from the racial projection, granting respect where due. The virtue embraced is standing for the cause. This is Robert Parrish and Hakeem Olajuwon. These men are embraced because they upheld the dignity of the struggle and the faith. At 78, Kareem remains active, writing on Substack, criticizing current players like LeBron James when he feels they fall short of the social responsibility inherent in their platform. He has not mellowed into a silent elder. He has sharpened into a sage. He will never forgive the forces that sought to break him. He will never forgive the erasures of history. And he will never forgive those who, having been given the gift of immense power, chose to use it for anything less than the liberation of their people. In a world that constantly asks black athletes to shut up and dribble or to smile and forgive the transgressions of the past, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's refusal to forgive is his final, most enduring skyhook, unblockable, undeniable, and looming over the game forever. His unforgiveness is not a defect of character. It is a mechanism of memory. It is the testimony of a man who stood 7 feet 2 inches tall and refused to bend even when the weight of history pressed down from above. That is the legacy of the Sequoia. That is why he will never forgive. If this story revealed something about the intersection of race, sports, and memory that you hadn't considered before, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into basketball history. Drop a comment about which of these rivalries surprised you most, because understanding the past helps us make sense of the present.